Hello and welcome to this tutorial using 3dsmax and Vray for lighting a realistic interior scene using HDR, Vray ES light and some other lighting. Well, let's start. For this interior I will start making the Vray dome light. Go to light, Vray light, choose dome and put it anywhere that you like. Go to modify panel and multiplier. Let's start with 1 and subdivision I will set up 25. Here and use texture, click on none, choose Vray HDR. If you see I have it over here, let me remove this. Click and drag, drop into any slot and choose instance. In bitmap, here in browse, click in browse and let's choose here freelancing from openfootage.net, a pretty good website for downloading free HDR images. Click open and here in mapping type, let's wait because this is a pretty heavyweight interior scene. Here in angular, change for spherical, and I'm going to move a little bit the horizontal rotation because previously I have used this SGR, so I know the position of the sun that I want. 50 and overall multiplier, let's change the render multiplier to 8. Well, and now this is the pretty basic setup for lighting an interior scene just with HDR, and let's add some Vray ES lighting into the light of in the kitchen. Let me hide some objects. This sofa. Seeing that it will be more light. So let's set up Vray ES and put it here in front of the lamp. Now we need to put this light in the correct position. Okay, here in the middle. Now let's set up a ES file to this Vray ES file, Vray light. Here in none, click and look out for your ES that you want to add to this. I'm going to use this famous ES light called 9ES. And for shape subdivision I'm going to 20. In color mode we're going to change to temperature and around 4000. This is Kelvin temperature, so you are working with candela, so I have a more yellow color into the light. And for power let's use 2000. And now I'm going to put this light instance copy click Shift and drag instance, so if I change this setting, the other one will change too, and move it to the right. Now let's do the same and move it backward, but not instance, because this one I want to use a lower multiplier intensity of the light, and move the target over here. Good. Now for this one, I'm not going to change a lot, just the power to 1500. And now let's move this, let's make another copy. Okay. Click and drag. Let's copy. And now let's increase. Well, I will leave it with the same setting of this one, even if I copy in an instance. And now let me see. We have this the kitchen lighting with a good setup, and now we can move forward to the light of this lamp. Let's see if I can, what type of light I'm going to use. X4 with a radius around, I don't know, I'm going to see it here. Move it up. I think it's okay with this side. And the intensity, the multiplier will be like, I think this is okay. And let me see if I have to check this double-sided, because I want to emit light from both sides. And you can leave it visible, but in this time I'm going to use invisible because it's not necessary. I want to remove any shape of the light inside the lamp. And now let's set up the light of the lamp in here in the bedroom. We can make a copy and put inside of the lamp, but not instance, remember, just copy. But I need this with a smaller size, very smaller. This one, put it over here. But because it is inside of the lamp, we need to increase the multiplier, and the size is smaller. I think that we can start with 1000. Let's put in the right place. This is good here, and make a instance copy. Wait a minute. Okay, see, it is inside. Let's make, like I say, the instance copy over here, and we are done with the lighting. If you see, it's pretty simple to set up a nice lighting. the thing that you have to know is to set up to have a very well set up materials and high resolution texture, so you can have a pretty nice rebound of the light in your texture. Always use your bump specular, and if it is necessary, use displacement like I am using here. Let me give you some tips for shading. Also, I model I create every model of my scene so I can have the control of the surface. And if you're not going to create your own model, please try to look out for model with high quality mesh, so you can have a nice surface with nice mapping. If you see in the floor, I have this displacement map. Sorry, let's put it here so I can show you. View image. This is the map that I'm using. If you see, the lines are very sharp, and I have some detail around here. And let me show you the setup of this shader. If you see, I like to use highlight, reflection glossiness, and reflection glossiness. This is the environment glossiness, and this is the direct lighting glossiness of the object. You can use, depending on how much reflection do you want to be blurred, you can decrease the reflection glossiness, but this can take a lot of time to render. If using the Fresnel EOR, will increase the reflection of the Fresnel effects. Also, I have a pretty high subdivision for this material because I have high glossiness reflection. If you see, I have this texture for the a custom made, but if you see, I have just 10% of the texture mixed with a dark black color, so I don't have the pretty much the same texture showing up in the render. You can do the same if you want, like a effect of a painted wood. You can mix the diffuse color with the diffuse texture. And for the reflection, I don't have the full map. Also, let me show you the reflection map. And the bomb, I have this bomb map. Let me reloading, saving the map. That is almost the same as the displacement. If you see, I have pretty high resolution texture, and this is like the same here. You can see this is a pretty basic map. It is just reflection, a little bit of white with some reflection, and this displacement bricks that will have a really nice displacement. And the other material follow the same. Always use your high resolution texture, bump, and specular map. Do not forget that. Don't be lazy. And now let's set up the Vray physical camera. Let's set up here. I want to have a pretty wide angle view. Sorry, Vray physical camera. So here it is. Click C in your keyboard to see the view of the camera. Now let's set up the camera. Let's decrease the focal length so I can have a more wide view, and the zoom factor. This is not pretty recommended, but in this time I want to have a lot of the scene into the render. Click on high all, and now let's set up the I want to do a brighter scene because I have a lot of dark material inside. So the F number, I'm going to set up a 3, uncheck vignetting because you can add this in Photoshop. White balance, I want neutral, I want the color of the light of the scene here. And for the shutter speed, I'm going to use, sorry. Now I think for the ISO around 320 maybe. And this is the only thing that you have to set up for this scene. Now let me give you a tip for rendering close-up, for creating close-up image. First you need to set up and put the target where do you want to render, so the center that you want in focus. If you want a pretty hard blur, let me select the camera, you can use here the focal length, increase the focal length. This is like the zoom of the camera. But you can do this just if you have a big scene, and you will have a pretty high blur when you're rendering. You don't have to change anything here. Just depth of field and the subdivision to 12. And remember putting the target in the center of the object that you want to be in focus. And this is the only thing that I do to render close-up images, so I can have a nice and smooth and realistic render. So let's set up this render. If you want the resolution, depending of what do you want, but to have and to see the detail of the render, you have to use a high resolution render. For the image sample, I'm going to adaptive DNC and measure neutrality, because you can render this using irradiant map or brute force. I'm going to give you two different setups. Just wait a second. If you are going to render with brute force, the first one is you can use 25, or if you have a high-end machine, you can use 40. Click here and add a 0 here. In the bottom end, don't do nothing. You don't have to do nothing. Color mapping, I'm going to use exponential. Subpixel mapping, clean output, don't affect color. And change the gamma to 2.2. That illumination, you can use ambient occlusion if you want. Click here, brute force and light cache. You can use a key 45 and light cache 2000. Put one here instead of the 2. And if you want to see the render by is creating and calculating the light cache, you can use here show calculate phase settings, a 3 here, means sample, you can use 25 and put another 0 here. And we are done with the render setting using brute force. This is a high resolution rendering. If you want to more faster rendering, you can use here 100. Here use area, turn off this, and use here 6. Change this to irradiance map, very low, but put 60 here and 25. Just leave it 1000. Put back 2, and here use 1.5, and here a 15, and you are done to have a more faster rendering. Remember, depending of your memory, you will need to increase the dynamic memory limit, and normally I use 10,000 because I have more than 25 GB of RAM in my machine. And also you can uncheck show window. See if you don't want to see the error that, or the Vray log in while rendering. And this is what I have do to get this render. This is the raw render with any post-production. So I'm going to give you some tips for fast post-production. The first thing that I'm going to do is to add some glow. This is what we are going to do. Duplicate the render. Go to filter, render, lens flare. Use the 105mm prime and increase and move it to the right. And click OK. And decrease the opacity to 15 or 25. Now you can add brightness and contrast. Decrease the brightness. Add some levels. Let's use hue and saturation, and decrease the saturation of this one. And this is pretty the basic thing that I use to post-produce my render. Normally my render are okay after the render, so I don't like to do a lot of things to my renders because it is more faster. And this is the final render. I have some other render. Let me show you some other renders. Like the bedroom. For this one, I'm going just to add some brightness. If you see how much it changed just with brightness and contrast. And I have this one, close up for the shirts. Let's use the same. And also I have the kitchen. Hue and saturation, so I don't like to bright colors. And click OK, and we are done. Sorry, I hope that you like it and enjoy this tutorial. Remember that you can remember that you can write me an email to alexo3d@gmail.com, and I will be more than happy to answer all of your questions. Thank you, and see you in the next tutorial.